Good morning. Structure creates freedom. Because I have an activity to do at the start, I am going to wait just a small amount to see who turns up quickly. So good morning. Please say hi as soon as you get in. I'm going to try and give my camera a quick clean. Okay, now as I understand that most of you will be watching this on replay, just jump forward a little bit just so you can get through this part. Quite often if I'm just, morning Adam, giving information purely out in this format, I just go straight in with the topic straight away for that fact that I know that most people will be watching it on replay. But to create community and connection with people, I'm going to take a couple of minutes and I'm going to try and hit wave. I'm just going to ask you a question right now, Adam. Can you just reply with a hi now? Just going to see how long that takes. Oh, the volume is a bit low. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run next door and I'm going to try something really quick. I won't be long. Okay, everyone, I'm just going to try plugging in this and see if that helps. Okay, here I am talking. Is that any better? How's that, Adam? Can people hear me? Okay, cool. So that's working much better. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to keep trying to hit wave. Looks like there's about a 10 or a 15-second delay. So I will ask questions throughout this. I'm just going to slowly start. I'm still going to give a couple more minutes for people to turn up. I made a coffee earlier. This coffee cup steals all the heat, so I made it quite hot. Okay, it's slowly getting to drinking temperature. The reason why I've put this together is for most of us, when I'm talking about structure creates freedom. That freedom is our space that we have to create something new for ourselves. And what I've noticed over the years in myself and with my readings is creating space, having that area where we can actually have a freedom of thought and have a little bit more control over what's happening to us to drive forward is really, really important. So the basic principle is just today is understanding some generalized concepts, and how we can use a framework that's based on science, and I'll go into a little bit of stuff a little bit deeper as we go, but really about how we can get in and, oops, that's not going to work, is it? And create this space, create this opportunity for change, and also to be able to run some data through something and really see what the result is that we're getting. So let's just get into it. I'm going to start running with all the information from now. If you join in, that's excellent. So have you ever felt that life was living you? That only if you had a little bit more energy and a little bit more time, that you could really, really create something awesome. I did, particularly back in 2009. So back in 2009, I'd been married for nearly 2 years. I was running a successful PT one-on-one face-to-face business. And I was doing about 54 sessions on average. So some weeks I was doing 60, some I was doing 50. Yeah, I was making, $4,500, a lot of it in cash, but I was doing 12, 14-hour days. I was working 5.5 days a week. Yeah, I never had time for myself. I never had time for my wife at the time. That ended up leading in divorce. I ended up getting burnt out, like adrenal fatigue burnout, just to keep it under a generic term. Burnt out, really fatigued, health suffering. But the main thing was, during that period of time, I just wasn't showing up as the human, as the man that I wanted to be. Divorce, burnout, fatigue, cut business back. And what does a nerd do when things require change? They study. So I got in and I started studying. And during my studies, what I found was some interesting information from various different fields. And I started to see a bit of a structure and a pattern from this various different stuff. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. And that's the structure and how structure creates freedom. Yep, it's not an imprisonment. Structure can actually create a freedom for you, for cognitive thought, for ability for you to create that space that we talked about earlier, for you to flourish, for you to plant those seeds so you can nourish them and grow. We can plant those seeds, but we need the space. Yep, and we need free brain power to drive and connect forward. So before I get into the science all too much, morning Ricky, I am going to get you to do an activity. So get your pen and your notebook. And we're going to write an intention. And I'm going to get you to write an intention. So I'm going to get you to pick one area in your life where you would like to create change, where you would like to show up as a high version of yourself, the highest version of yourself. So we're going to look across 3 areas. I'll go through some stuff and I'll get you to do something here. So what we want to have a look at is, these are the areas. I want you to have a look at your health, your physical appearance, your nails, the shine. Can you see my shiny skin? The shine in your skin, your leanness. Yep, what sort of body fat you're carrying, how you actually feel when you stand and just stare at yourself in the mirror. That's one part. It might be your actual health. Are you continuously thinking about health moving forward? Is it your physical health, your physical appearance, or is it your physical performance, your energy throughout the day? That is one part. Is it more to do with your wealth? How much money you have? Or wealth is almost always our happiness and our joy. Are we investing our most important asset, our time, where it is most important to us? Or is it in relationships? Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your partner, your family, your friends. So pick one of those areas. Okay? So health, physical health, physical performance, fitness. Yep. Appearance, look. Or I want you to have a look at your wealth, your financial wealth, or your emotional and mental wealth through your happiness, joy, and where you're investing your time, or your relationships. Pick one of those areas, and I want you to write an intention. And the intention is, I allow myself permission to feel where I truly am in regards to dot, dot, dot. Feel that position and do the work so I can become the best version of myself. So I allow my position, I allow myself permission to feel where I truly am in relationship to health, wealth, relationship. Yeah, write that in for you. Yeah, so I can see where I am and I can take my first step to doing the work. Just write an intention like that. Once you have done that, can you just let me know? I'm just going to give you 10 seconds for that. So I'm just waiting for the replies to come back up. So I'm just giving you the space to do that. I find these lives a bit more challenging. Okay, it looks like they're starting to be done. Now take your pen, and if you are right-handed, put it in your left hand. If you are left-handed, put it in your right hand. And underneath that intention that you've just written, write it with your opposite hand. Yeah, so write that intention out now with your opposite hand. This here is really important to me. Yeah, and we're not gonna half brain this. We're not gonna half-ass this. We're gonna go in with full brain power. So now we're gonna connect the other half of your brain to this intention, because there is a massive power in intention setting. So I now want you to write your intention with your opposite hand so we can set that intention with full power. Let me know once that is done. I'll have a chance to get a little bit more. This is caffeine-free coffee, by the way. It is. It's my second one though. The first one had caffeine in it. Okay, we must be getting pretty close to that intention done. As soon as I get a little thumbs up from someone, I'm going to move on, because I just want to make sure that you're investing your time in setting this intention. Awesome. Now, the reason why I believe that is really important, if you look at some of the work from Bruce Lipton, or, yeah, it did take a little bit longer, or Dr. Joe Dispenza, they show that the difference between quantum physics compared to Newtonian physics is that the actual intention, the energy that we create in our mindset creates the matter. It's the intention that sets everything. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but everything is created twice, first in the mind and then in reality. If we can't connect feeling and we can't see it, we can't create it. If we can feel it and see it, it's already created. It's already done. So after that, I'm just going to come back to where I left off. 2009, I'd hit the wall. Business had suffered. My relationship had got, we're separated now. Yeah, and I was burnt out. And as a nerd, I thought, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to start to see some stuff. I'm going to start to study to get back on top. So when I started to study, I looked into a lot of different areas, and I wasn't directly looking to take myself from point A to point B. I just got into study, and I was looking at health and a few things, but I came across a few things that were really interesting. And over a 6-month period of time, these little blocks fell into place. And it was all triggered from a documentary I watched. And in this documentary, they talked about a clinic in Switzerland that had the highest success rate for treating anorexia. They ran the principle that anorexia was a physical, mechanical system that drove a psychological approach. And there they had a treatment success rate in the 90s. The most successful clinic worldwide at that point in time, 10, 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And I thought that was quite interesting. What they noticed is that their principle was the individual might have an issue or an event come up and they want to create some control, and they use food control to initially start it. But once they controlled food for a period of time and the food got less and less and less, the psychological components went up. And in that, to fix it, what they did is they did very little work on the psychology. They just got the person to slowly eat a little bit more each time. And as the person ate and got to their threshold point of maintenance calories, what they found is the psychological aspects that they were having dropped away. So they used the mechanical system. And they cited some research. And I found the research. And the research was really interesting. It's called the Minnesota Starvation Experiment. And it was done in America. And they got healthy, normal men. Well, there's no such thing as a normal man. Yeah. So they got apparently healthy, average individuals. And they underfed them. And over a period of time of underfeeding, these were people who were emotionally stable, apparently, at that period of time. When they underfed them, after a period of time, psychological stuff started coming up for them. Yep, they started to become obsessed with exercise, obsessed with food. Yep, some of them started to self-harm. Libido went down, depression went up, anxiety went up, etc. The mechanical process of under-eating lifted them. And I'm like, there's something in that. There is a power in that system. During this period of time, I was also doing research in health. Okay, metabolic typing diet. It says that we are individuals, and the best diet for us is individual. Metabolic Man, the Bible, nutritional and physical degeneration, nourishing diets, etc., etc. The Blue Zone studies. If you haven't looked at the Blue Zone studies, they're really interesting. Bonding, community, love, purpose, all started to come up. And I could start to see these little bits of what was sort of needed. Then I came across this. This is the book that had the biggest impact on me and changed my life. It's written by Viktor Frankl. And if anyone has read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It is called A Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a Jewish psychiatrist. Yep. He was taken off to a concentration camp. Most people were moved and were never seen again. But a lot of them were kept, 5 or 10% were kept as workers and slaves in these camps. And what he started to notice after a period of time is that people gave up. That's the only reason some of the Jewish prisoners of war at that period of time were killed. And they were killed because they had given up. You know, they were wanted to be kept by the Germans because they needed slave work labor. What Viktor Frankl found is the one thing that differentiated people who chose to live or people who gave up on themselves, and that was purpose. A purpose greater than themselves. Viktor Frankl's purpose was he wanted to find his family. He wanted to make sure this never happened again. I started to see that if someone who'd lost or possibly lost everything with death all around them could still keep going, and that purpose was the backbone. There was a key to purpose. There was a key in a system, that a system, if we followed a system, could take us into psychological flourishing or psychological disorder. Okay. The other thing that I was always passionate about at this period of time is the All Blacks, and also motor racing. And if you look at highly successful Formula One race teams, they run the chassis, they run the engine, and then they go to the test track and they go test after test after test after test. Then they come back and they'll make a tweak. They'll change a tire compound. They'll change a suspension setting. They'll change an engine management profile. Then they go out and they run the data, run the data, run the data. Then they come back in. They run their system. They let the system run, and then they make little wee small tweaks. And that way they can see. Yeah, the All Blacks run systems. The most successful sporting team in the world is just a combination of systems based on the right people. The Blue Zone studies showed the power of love, purpose, bonding. Viktor Frankl showed purpose. And I saw all this fall into place. And I understood the power of structure. Structure gave me a system. And that system would allow me the space now to do the work, to see the results, and to start to move forward. So I created a system. Connect, remove, add in. And it works across a basic thing. We are biologically individuals. We have a connection with nature. Yeah, we have a connection with our food. Yeah, natural movement, and movement's really important. Yeah, our communication, our community, and our bonding is critically important. And a system gives us the space to grow. Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Robert Sapolsky. Added to some of the information that I found at that period of time, okay, by Hansele, which is the stress adaptation model, which pretty much states to us that we have a load of stress. And when I'm talking about stress, I'm talking about a stressor. And a stressor is anything the human body needs to make adaptation to. A shitty work email, too much exercise, not enough exercise, being overweight, poor nutrients in our food, high chemical load in our food, non-ionizing radiation like Wi-Fi, 5G, non-native EMFs, electrical fields, pesticides and chemicals on our garden and nature strips, chemicals in your toilet, in your home, on your cleaning services, the makeup, the skincare products that you wear, the fluoride in your water, etc., 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 etc. Emotional, physical, psychological. All of these are stressors. When these stressors build up, they are the same as having one massive stress event. 50 little small ones is the same as one big one. The work by Joe Dispenza in his research shows that we live 70% of our life in survival mode. When we're in survival mode, that is a high stress situation. When our body is highly stressed in the sympathetic mode, what it causes us to do is run, hide, or fight. If I want to create a life worth living, a life of flourishing, of connection, of purpose, of passion, I need to open my heart. I can't open my heart if I'm in a situation of stress. The situation of stress is fight, run, and hide. How can I open my heart to be vulnerable, to truly see myself and allow compassion, acceptance, and self-loving? So I have the strength to remove myself from my ego and judgment so I can do the work to step forward. Stress also shuts us down from our prefrontal cortex and moves us back into the reptilian part of our brain, and it shuts down executive function. It removes our true ability to see the global picture, and we go just for the now. Yep. It is hard to off-put something that we don't want to do today for the greater good tomorrow, particularly if that thing that's good for us today might be eating the chocolate cake because it makes us feel good. It takes us out of pain in that moment, but our greater good is our health and our well-being. Now, chocolate cake per se isn't directly related to your health and well-being. You can eat cake and be healthy, yeah. But a lot of people are eating too much cake because they're doing it for a particular reason. So I started to see this power that started to come in. I'm starting to put these steps together at this time. And what I've started to see is there's a power in a system. And that system that I run can get me to psychological, emotional flourishing, or it can punish me. Yeah, I started to see that connection, love, bonding, all this comes from an open heart. But stress can shut my heart down and put me into fight, yeah, run, and hide. I started to see that being able to see the bigger picture, to create a purpose, required a bit of stress to drop down. And I started to see this. And it's really evident today. Life is fucking unpredictable and uncertain. With that uncertainty and that unpredictable comes a stress. If I want to create something beautiful in me that I don't have today, that's going to add to my value, I have to do something that I haven't done before. Anything that I haven't done before is going to be unfamiliar, uncomfortable, uncertain, unpredictable, and it's going to have a heavy slant and drive me heavily to that stress state where I shut down my ability to open my heart. And I'm like, how can I overcome this? And I saw it in the power of a structure, the power of a routine. By the age of 35, 95% of what you do is a habit, a routine, and a ritual. Why is that so important? Why are we programmed to run on habits and routines and rituals? The answer is energy conservation. Burning excessive energy is a massive stress to this human body because we've evolved over so many millions of years where energy was very, very hard to come by. There was periods of time where we mightn't be able to find food and energy. So anything that would create the space, that will create an opportunity for me to conserve energy, to save it and store it in, was a benefit. I was going to use this example. Yeah, who's ever driven from home to work and you've gotten to work and gone, oh my gosh, how did I get here? I can't remember the drive. Thumbs up if that's ever happened to you. The opposite can also be said. Who has ever gone to a foreign city and hired a rental car? Now you're in a city that you've never been before. You're in a car that you've never driven before. And even with a GPS system, yeah, how hard is it to drive around town? How hard is it to go from one place to somewhere else? It's really tough, isn't it? It requires so much energy. So now, if one of the keys to life is energy conservation, and I want to create a habit and I want to change, I'm going to have to burn more energy. I'm going to burn more energy. I'm going to do something unpredictable, unfamiliar, uncertain, inconvenient, and uncomfortable. Is that going to open my heart, or is that, and let me relax, or is that going to shut me down? Most often it is going to shut me down. Sorry, I'm just looking at the time to see how I'm going. So what I started to realize is a number of factors here. That most of our time in life anyway, we have a 70% chance that we're living in scarcity mode, in survival mode of run, fight, and hide. That to create life, we need an open heart. That the key to life is energy conservation, and anything that works away from my standard habits, my standard daily operating system, my standard beliefs and values, and the standard movement that I do, anything is going to create a higher energy load that's going to add more stress. How can I set myself up for success? How can I do something? Remember, we already talked about the power of the system from the stuff that I found when I came across the anorexia clinic that put me onto the Minnesota starvation experiment. Then I looked at the stuff through the blue zones and purpose, and I realized I needed to create the space for me to grow that minimized my energy expenditure and gave me an opportunity to open my heart to connect to my feminine energy of love, nurturing, compassion. Yeah, so I could then move forward. I understood that changing my habits was a stress. So I created a framework of systems. And the more I went into it, I realized I wasn't the only one doing this, and I wasn't the first. Yeah. But this is what I found. Progress builds passion. There is a power in planning. And there is a freedom of thought that comes from a system and a structure. I'm just going to use a quick example. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Well, I was. Yeah, I'm a holistic health coach. Yeah, and I help people now create change. But I'm just going to go back to being a strength and conditioning coach. And I'm looking at an exercise. Yeah. When I'm teaching someone an exercise, if that exercise is new to me, yeah, and I've never taught it before, it's like learning to drive. It's really hard to be connected to the client. It's really hard to be connected to what's going on with them emotionally, to help coach them through bigger things in life. If I'm really focused and sort of lost on the system, if I'm trying to work out how to, adjust the body, is that in the right place? Do we have the right, scapulothoracic rhythm or glenohumeral rhythm? Have we got this going on? Okay. But once you do something more and more and more, you've got your little system and your checkpoints. Yeah. And then that system becomes automated. So now I'm like driving to work without thinking. My brain can unwind. My brain can think. And now I've got that opportunity to have a freedom of thought, that I can watch the client, I can watch the exercise, I know what cue to use. Yep. And now I can start to be free to coach. There is a reason why so many of the world's most successful people wear the same clothes. It's a system. It's a structure. There is a reason why the most successful people in the world all have a morning routine to prime themselves, to set themselves up for the day. It's powerful in the morning, because if Joe Dispenza's work is right, if 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day is what we are having, and 95% of them are same as yesterday, and if those thoughts aren't serving us because they're a habit, a ritual, and a belief that's kept us where we are today, and we want something different, we need an opportunity to program them. And this is where the structure comes in. So there is a power in a plan. A very strong power. One of the things with our plan, is it gives us an opportunity. At the start, we'll set a goal. Okay, and I want you all to get your pen and paper out and write this. I want you to write down one goal. Even if it's just the word goal at the moment, because you don't know something, but it might be related to that intention that you set earlier. Now, when I write out my goal, that's my what. And that uses a particular part of my brain. Now, if I ask myself, why? So the what most likely is going to use your prefrontal cortex, our executive thinking of logic and reason. Now, when I ask myself why is that important? Why do I want to show up as a strong, stable supporter and create a safe space for my daughter to grow up? Why? Now I'm connecting to a feeling and I'm moving to a different part of my brain. So why connects me to feeling? It's a different part of my brain. Then I'm going to ask myself the question, when am I going to achieve this? When? Now I'm looking at time and space. That requires a different part of my brain. So now we're already up to 3 different parts of our brain. Now I'm going to ask myself, what's my first step? How am I going to do this? How? What is that first step? How am I going to achieve this? A different part of my brain. Now I'm going to ask myself, who am I going to enroll to help me? And that's going to get me to think in a different way. Now I've got my what. What is the goal? I've got my why, a feeling part of me. I've got my when. Now I'm looking at time and space, different part of the brain. Now I'm going to use my how. What are my action steps? Different part of the brain. Now I'm going to use who am I going to enroll to bring this in? Now I've got 5 different parts of my brain. Now if I turn to loved ones and friends and explain this to them and let them know, I'm using a different part of my brain again. That is a part of a system. And that system will start to create some freedom. We'll get clear. It will start to see stuff come out, and it's going to help our goals be more stickable. It's just an example. But with that plan, we've come up with a couple of other things I'm going to add into it. Is what barriers might I face? What barriers might I need to encounter? And I'm starting to have a look at creating a success plan. Structure creates freedom. So we are going to have a look at creating a night routine, a morning routine. Habits, rituals, and routines based around our purpose, Remember, the purpose is really important. That will get you to live through anything. If your purpose is truly connected to your values, to who you are, for that to happen, we have to be able to open our heart. We have to be able to shift away from stress. The way that we can do that is with a system. When I have a system and I'm going from A to B to C, I know my steps. I don't have to think about what's next. And that thinking about what's next, what's going on, what have I forgotten about? Do I have to do this? Jeez, I forgot to do that. When everything's just higgledy-piggledy, my brain is working hard. And when my brain works hard, I burn more energy, and that is stress. That is setting me up for failure. The power is in the plan. The power is in the plan connected to your heart opening to have your true purpose shine through. So now we've got our plan and we've looked at our what, our why, our when, our how, our who. And now we're going to start to have a look at these other little things here on our side, and that is, what are my barriers? What might I come up with? And we're going to do something around these. We've planned for them, and it's called if-then planning. If-then planning has shown to increase your likelihood of success in creating a new habit by 300%. Another name for it is a pre-mortem. What might I encounter today that if I put a plan in place now, when it happens, I don't have to think, I don't have to make the decision, I can just act. Because decision fatigue, if I have to flip-flop, generally what will happen is the little person that sits on this shoulder will go, eat the cake after dinner. Eat the cake. You've had a hard day. You deserve to eat the cake. This voice is going to say, don't eat the cake. Remember your goals. And this one will go, come on, but remember, and you'll keep flip-flopping. And decision fatigue will happen until you keep flip-flopping long enough until you find a reason for you to eat the cake. The familiar, the predictable, the comfortable decision. Because choosing the other one is harder. And the stress of the decision will shift you away from your executive prefrontal cortex, and it's going to drop you into the limbic system. And that limbic system is, do it now, get out of pain, eat the fucking cake, start tomorrow. Yeah, so we can offset decision fatigue with if-then planning. If I go out for dinner tonight and they offer me cake or they offer me the dessert menu, I will instantly say, no thank you. Yep, I will have a decaf long black. Done. You don't have decision fatigue coming up. That is a structure, and that is going to create a freedom for you to live into, to move into, and that will set up your wins, your success, your self-esteem, and your self-confidence. Because if we're stressed, if we have to make a decision, if we're tired at the end of the day and our energy is low, we will take the easy option all the time because we're programmed to get out of pain. Remember, if there's a stress, a fatigue, a tiredness, it's going to shift us into the stress mode, which is fight, run, hide. Get out of pain immediately. We can't plan long term. So a way to offset decision fatigue is with if-then planning. Another way to help with decision fatigue, let's say we set up in the morning and you're going to jump out of bed and your alarm goes off and you're like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm not going to get up now. A great system is Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. And this is what we do. The alarm goes off and we go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, up. And I'm into the day. Ooh, looking quite good there this morning. And we get up and we jump out and we get into the day. When I start to count down backwards from 5 to 1, it uses a different part of my brain and it switches me away from where the decision part will start fighting with me. Yep, it will take that part away. Now, we've had a look at creating continuous decisions is high energy. It'll shift us to stress and our body doesn't like it. So we've talked about the power of creating a plan. What? Why? Yep. How? When? Who? Yep. We're going to look at what might come up. Time, incidents, activities that might come up in the day. Yep. And we're going to put in if-then planning or something like a 5-second rule. We're creating the structure for success. We're creating a structure that we can see a system to get the results. When we start putting these in place, if the plan that I create is too big, that is a stress. So BJ Fogg, you can Google him on YouTube. Google him, go to YouTube. Talks about behavior as a formula. It's your motivation, it's your ability, and your trigger. If your motivation is high, you can do anything. But we know motivation is fleeting, it doesn't last. So if I want to create a behavior, a habit, a routine, and a ritual, I need to offset the challenge of motivation, and that is to make the goal small and simple. Yeah? If you never exercise and you want to start exercising and you set yourself up to try to go to the gym 4 times a week and do an hour walk every other day, that is a massive goal. You most likely, the goal will be so large that when your motivation is low, you won't do that. But if your goal was to put your shoes on, and just go for a walk outside, that is so easy to attain that most likely that when you got your shoes on, you'll start to walk a bit further. And we want our trigger, so we can set up our trigger. When we come home at the end of the day, and we go into our bedroom, our gym gear's already laid out. Or our exercise shoes are already by the door. So as soon as we come in, you take off your work shoes, you put your exercise shoes on, and you just walk to the letterbox. That's the goal. We can make our steps low. Most likely, we'll do more. So for me, you can see I've got books here all over the place. I like to read, love to read. I read all the time. When I started to learn to read again, about 15 years ago, reading was a challenge. So I set the goal to read 1 page. And that's all it would be. I knew that I could read 1 page. No matter how tired I was, how fatigued, how much I couldn't be bothered, I could read 1 page. What I noticed though, if I read 1 page, I'd read 20 or 30. If I set myself up to read 20 or 30 pages, I most likely would walk away. So just a quick recap. We know progress builds passion. That life is about energy conservation. Anything that requires too much energy, is going to be difficult. That's why 95% of what we do today, if we're over 35, is a habit, routine, and ritual. We know decision fatigue is a real thing, and every time we have to keep making more and more decisions, it gets tougher. That's why every successful business has a system. The most successful teams in the world have systems. Formula One racing cars go so fast because of systems. We know that if we put things in place, like if-then planning and the 5-second rule, we can overcome parts of these decision fatigues. We know that with purpose, a purpose greater than ourselves, we can live through concentration camps. We can do anything. So we need to connect to our purpose and set powerful goals. And we looked at a structure for that. What is the goal? Why is it important? When? How do I do my first steps? Who's involved? And then we talked about what might I come up. Now let's look at some routines. I'm going to give you a couple now. We're going to look at creating a structure for growth. And it starts just before we go to bed. It's our night routine. Our night routine for most of us is going to be critically important because most of us are undersleeping. Undersleeping is a stress. It increases inflammation. Inflammation, I won't go too deep, releases cytokines. Cytokines talk to the hypothalamus pituitary, adrenal axis. That creates stress, can open up leaky gut. That's more of a stress. Yeah. But sleep is powerful. It's where we regenerate. It's where we recharge. It's where our creativity, our passion, and our drive come from. But most of us are undersleeping. And if we wake up underslept, really tired when the alarm goes off, grumpy, it will drive impulsive behaviors because it is a stress, and stress equals impulsive behaviors. So to create a space for change, it starts with sleep. We want to get to bed at a set time. And we want to have a bit of a routine beforehand. So I don't want to go too deep in the routine of sleep, but I just want you to understand that to set ourselves up, to own our morning, and when we own our morning, we own our day, that starts at night with our sleep. And this is what I love to do for me. Okay? I have a routine that starts 2 hours before bed. And it has a lot to do with driving light. Okay? Light is a massive thing that's going to fuck your sleep up. I can't put it two other ways. Blue light, no melatonin, shit sleep. Most of us think we get by on low sleep. We don't. We're just really good at masking it, and it will come back and get you. Yep. If your waist is bigger than you would like it to be, if you're waking up tired in the morning, if you need lots of coffee throughout the day, if you have mid-afternoon energy slumps, you're not sleeping. You're not sleeping well for your goals. Yep. And trust me, there's always a cost. Nothing is free. And you'll either pay today by going to bed with a little bit of sleep, or you'll pay later with chronic stress-related inflammation, illness, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. That is it. So it starts with sleep. Now for me, 2 hours before bed, no screens, no white and blue light. Okay. I shower, I drop my body temperature, yeah, and then I do a little bit of breath work to start to drop me down, but I write out some affirmations. Okay. For an affirmation for me to be really effective, an affirmation is based a lot more around not, if I said to myself, I don't know if Kim's still watching, but I can see Kim there. If I say to myself, I am a marketing specialist, instantly me, yeah, my body will go, fuck off, you dickhead. Of course you're not. Yeah. But if I say, ask myself a power question, what am I doing to become better at marketing? Yep. When have I marketed well? My body will then search the database of my subconscious and come up with an answer that is correct. So our affirmations, to me, an affirmation is validation. For me to open my heart and allow success and allow great change, I have to feel worthy of that. And for me to feel worthy of that, I need to be able to validate myself from within. So I want to validate myself to help set up my sleep. And I'll do 3 validations, 3 affirmations. I ask myself these questions. Yep. And they can be anything. What have I done today that I'm proud of? Yeah. Why am I worthy of love? Why do I deserve success in these areas? And when I ask myself these questions, yep, when have I had that success? Yep. When I ask myself those validating questions, my body will search my database and give me an answer based on fact. More as if I just said, I am successful. Yeah, I am the marketing king. I am blah. My body will just go, no, you're not. That's not true. But if I ask myself, when have I been deserving of love? You know, why would my life be enhanced by me being the best version of myself, I'll get a true answer and it will have a bigger impact. So my night routine has me going to bed at a set time that'll allow me for my morning routine. Yeah, it has a bit to do with the light and it has some power questions involved. Yep, my clothes for tomorrow are already laid out. I don't know if you noticed, but I nearly only ever wear black. Sometimes I'll wear white and grey, but black, white and grey. 90% of the days I'll wear black, white and grey. You'll see me in like black all the time. I don't have to think. It's just a decision I don't have to go with. Black, white and grey all go together, so it all looks good, so I can just get up and kick into my day. Yeah, but my clothes are already laid out. And my food for tomorrow is already done. So when I wake up in the morning, my food's ready. My clothes are ready. I've gotten up on that alarm immediately, straight away, and I'm into my day. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot one thing. Other than my 3 power questions, my validations to find why I feel worthy, I make sure I know my first 3 action steps that I'm going to take after my morning routine. I don't want to have to think. I get up, I do my morning routine at the end, and I'll talk about that, but at the end of that morning routine, I then do my first 3 action steps of my 3 tasks that are most important for me to do that I decided yesterday. So now my plan is already, I'm not thinking. Yeah, I don't have decision fatigue. My plan is put in place. So that's my night routine. Same bedtime. Have a little night routine to set you up for sleep. Give yourself some validations. So you need to feel that you're worthy to create this change. Because if you don't feel worthy and you don't feel deserved, you won't be able to step up to do the uncomfortable, the inconvenient, the unfamiliar, the unpredictable. And I know my action steps. I've got my 3 plans ready to go. Now the alarm goes off, bang. I get up immediately. No snooze, up straight away. That is key. Your life is important. You're important. Don't start your day on procrastination and putting off your dreams. That's just programming you for mediocrity, for being mediocre. Don't do that. So up, no snooze. Step 1, a glass of water. Our brain is predominantly fluid. Yeah, we are dehydrated in the morning. Set your brain up for success. Step 2, move. We want to move. It doesn't have to be a brutal smash yourself in the ground exercise. Yeah, I'm in quite good shape. Yeah, I train once a week hard. The rest of it's pretty much walking. Yeah, but we want to move. That gets toxins out of our body. When we remove toxins out of our body, yep, that will help set us up to decrease stress and take steps to move forward. So do some movement. It can be a minute's worth of push-ups, a minute's worth of sit-ups, a minute's worth of squats. It could be like me. I do a little bit of lymphatic brushing and a jiggle and I go for a walk. Then when I come back, I do a hot cold shower. Yeah. It boosts your immune, it wakes you up. It boosts your immune system, it wakes you up. Yeah. In summer here in Perth, it's not a challenge. I'll be honest, it's no challenge. But now it's getting a bit cooler. It is. So now we're setting up. Successful people take action even if they feel like they don't want to. Successful people, even if they can't be fucked doing something, do it anyway. Set yourself up for success habits. Just make this a routine. Get up. Yep. Have your water. Do some movement. Have a hot cold shower. Tony Robbins has a system. Change your state. Change your being. Change how you feel. Change that physiology. For us to be successful, we need to change our story. We need to be able to change our state, to change our story, so we will do the system. And that's a part of this morning routine. Then I do breath work and I journal. I personally like Brendon Bouchard's power journals. They're quite great. They have some structure to them. Yeah. It's got some morning mindsets. It's got your most important tasks, etc., etc. But we want to journal. We want to be creating that purpose. We want to be creating a plan. We want to make sure that our purpose and our plan, who we want to be, why it's important that we do this, who in our life will value from us being the best version of ourselves, when are we going to do it, who are we going to involve. Remember all those steps. We want to be programming ourselves for success by bringing all of this in. That's how we succeed. That structure creates that freedom, that cognitive thought, and that ability for us to move forward. So the morning routine, it's based around on changing my state. So then I can work on my story so I can implement the system. When we first wake up, when we're going from being asleep to waking, we're predominantly running at a cross between alpha and theta brain waves. I won't go too deep into this, but those theta brain waves are our gateway to the subconscious. Our subconscious is our storage of our habits, our beliefs, and our feelings. For us to be successful, we need to condition our habits, our beliefs, and our stories. Our habits, our routines, and our rituals. We want to be programming the subconscious, and our gateway to programming the subconscious is in a theta brainwave state. That is the power of your morning routine. The morning routine, no alarm, up early, water, some movement, hot cold shower. Then you're going to do a small breath work to decrease your stress, and you are going to then journal. Connect to your future. Who do I want to be? What person do I want to show up? What relationships do I want? Why is this important to me? Why do I deserve this? When we have that plan, when we have that structure, it decreases the stress and it gives us our ability to tap into our prefrontal cortex for executive function so we can see and plan long term. It gives us an opportunity to open our heart. And when we open our heart and have acceptance, compassion, and self-love, it gives us that opportunity to flourish and move in. That is the power of how we get in and move. Then my next little habit that I'll move into is priming my day with some great food, like the brain shake that I talked about on Food for Thought. Does anyone have any questions? We've covered a lot today. We've covered the power of a system. How a system, if done incorrectly, can take us into psychological disorder, or it can take us to human flourishing. That when we run a system, it creates a freedom. That we're not making so many decisions, and decision making is stress, that we already know what to do. We can help even offset our success by creating some structure. We can move through if-then planning, 5-second rules. Okay? That is one of the things that is really important. Okay? Purpose. Yeah? And then understanding a framework to give you the space to do the work. If any of you have worked with me, you know that to create a change, you're going to step up. There's going to be emotions involved. You're going to daily have to look into spaces that you mightn't want to look into. Because 3 things stop us from success. A limiting self-belief, a fear, or our identity isn't aligned with that goal. So for us to create change, we have to look into those darker areas of ourselves. That takes strength. To help you succeed, the framework, to bring down the stress, to help you offset things. When that system and framework is put in place, your freedom, you've created the space for flourishing. That's just my recap on today. It's been a pleasure, as always. I definitely hope some of you have got some value out of this. Just as a recap over the last 3 seminars that we've sort of had a little look at, is we've talked about connecting to nature. That connection is the key. Yeah, we talked about food for thought and how a lot of food has to drive with emotions and habits, and it all sort of ties back in. Yeah, we've had a look at how to use structure to be free, to allow ourselves the opportunity to create the change, to create the space to create the change. We've understood that most of us are living 70% of our life in survival state because life is unpredictable and unfamiliar. And that way that we can overcome that is with the power of a system and some structure, to allow yourself to open the heart and to have the space and the strength to create that awesome life.